All right, so I'm back to continue our Galaga game. So in the last one, we had gotten to the point where we have movement of our ship. We've got some blasting. We can shoot. As you can tell, I shrunk my images a little bit, so they're a little bit more manageable. We got the shooting, so it's not rapid fire. If you hold down the space bar, you have to push it again and again. We've also got an enemy bug flying down, and every time it loops, it switches to another random X position on its way down. So today in this video, I'm going to add in some collision so that the bug can collide with the bullets, and we're also going to add score. So when we shoot the bugs, then our score goes up. We should also add collision to the ship so that if a ship and a bug collide, then you get destroyed. I think finally we want to make it a little bit more like true Galaga, where they don't just fly straight down. They actually go across, back and forth at the top of the screen, and then they slowly make their way down. I mean, it's not going to be exactly like Galaga. True Galaga also has them flying in and doing these loop de loops. We're going to keep it a little simpler for this one. All right. So let's get started. Let's get started with let's add score. Okay. So just as a reminder, we've got our draw method. We've got our update method, or function, I should say. We've got an on key down function. So let's make a new function for updating score. Okay. And in order for this to work, we're going to have to make a new variable. We're going to make it a global variable so that we can change it inside of our update and our update score function. Okay. So we're going to make score here. And let's make it equal to 0 to start. And rather than update score, let's actually call it just draw score. And we can actually draw text using PyGame. There's a specific method for it. So we're going to draw text. I believe that's the function. Again, if you ever need to double check that, you can. PyGame draw text, just to make sure we've got the right syntax. We don't want PyGame, we actually want PyGame Zero. There we go. Text formatting, it's screen.draw.text. There we go. So we should be putting here screen, which is the variable that we use, same as for these clear and fill. Screen.draw.text, and now inside of that there's a number of parameters. The first one, by default, we can just put in there our score. Now I'm going to convert it to a string because I believe it's expecting a string in there. And then if we put a comma, we can also put in there our as a tuple an XY value. Where do we want this to be drawn? Okay, so I'm going to make it 50 over from the left, and let's go 30 down. Okay, in a little bit I'm also going to show you how we can add our own custom fonts, which is nice. It gives a bit more of a style. Okay, so there we go. That's essentially all we need in order to draw our score. All right, and because we've defined it outside, it is global for reference. We can reference it inside here, no problem. However, if we want to change it, that's where we're going to have to make it global. And so we're going to do it inside of our update. All right, now in here we've got a for loop already iterating through our enemies, and so here we've already got in here where we're increasing or doing some movement for our bug, and we're checking if it's at the bottom of the screen, in which case it loops it back up and gives it a new X value. Let's do some collision now here for our bullet. Okay, so to do that, what we're going to have to do is actually iterate again through our bullets. So for B, we can actually do for the same as the one above it. For B, bullet in bullets, if enemy dot collide rect. So collide rect is a method that is defined in every actor object. So we can do that, and it is a collision detection method that checks if if another rectangle of another object is colliding with this object's rectangle. And so the nice thing is with PyGame Zero, it automatically creates a rectangle the same shape and size and location of the image that we have. So it's moving every time we change our X and our Y values. And so we're going to see if enemy.collideRect with bullet, and all we have to do is pass in bullet, and it will automatically recognize that it's the rectangle of bullet. So if that's true, that means they've collided. And now what do we want to have happen? So one, we want the enemy to be destroyed. We want to remove it. We also want the bullet to be destroyed. We don't want going through a whole bunch of enemies at once. And then thirdly, we want to increase our score. So we're going to go score plus equals, and you can give it whatever score you want. I'm going to give it 150 points. We're also going to remove bullet from bullets. So to do that, we're going to go bullets dot remove, and then brackets bullet. So it removes that. And let's also now remove the enemy. So we're going to put enemies dot remove enemy. And that is all. Fairly simple for collision. Now we haven't, right now, score is not global within for being able to be changed within update. It'll recognize it to reference it, but if we want to update the value and change the value, we need to explicitly state here global scores. That score is a global variable, and that's the one we want to change. If you don't do that, then it's expecting that it's changing a local version of the variable score. Okay, there's a little scope in there. So let's try it out. So we've got this. I'm shooting. Now I need to be able to actually hit this bug. There we go. Now notice we don't have a score yet. Now the bullet just got destroyed. The enemy got destroyed. We're not seeing the score, and that's because we are not actually calling our draw score method yet. And where do we want that? I would put it right in here. Okay. So let's try that again. And now you can see we've got 150. Beautiful. Do we see it even before we have a score? Yeah, we do. We see there's a 0 there. Oh, I got him, and we're up to 150. Now, you notice we only have a single enemy. We don't have more than that. And so we also want our enemies moving a little bit differently. So why don't we try that? How many should we have across? Let's start with 8. Okay. So here we've got one enemy, and we're setting the initial value, etc. So I'm going to change this so that right at the beginning we've got 8 going across the top. Okay, so let's change this with a for loop. For x in range, and we're going to do 8. We're going to append a bug, and with that one that we've just appended, I'm not going to give it a random x value. Rather, I'm going to give it an initial x value of, let's say, 100 plus, let's go 90 times x. So why am I doing this? So I want the first bug to be 100 pixels over from the left, and then this is going to be the offset, the x offset between each of the bugs. We may want something different than this, but I'm going to start with this anyways. Times x. Now because x is 0 to start, the first bug, this offset will be 0. The second one is going to be 100 plus 90. A third one is going to be 100 plus 270. All right, etc. Or no, 180, which will make it 280. And we're going to set the y value to be, let's make it maybe 80 to start. Okay. Now the other thing we need to change is the enemy's movement. We don't want it moving and changing the y constantly. Instead, I want it to be increasing the x. So I'm going to make it increase by, let's say 5. So slow it down a bit. And I'm going to multiply it by direction, because what I'm thinking of is it's going to start by moving to the right, and then when it gets to the end, I want it to move down and then move backwards to the left. So that's what we want to do. So here, rather than this, what I'm going to do is change this to if the enemy x is greater than, and we've got to check, we should be checking the one that's the last one that got added. That'll be the one on the farthest right. So let's do, let's actually put this outside of here. If enemies -1 dot x, so that's the last enemy in the list, if that is greater than, let's go width minus 80. Let's try that. If that's true, then then we're gonna say move down is equal to true, and let's flip direction. And the reason why I'm doing this is I'm thinking we can use this for loop rather than having an additional for loop. Let's change that. So we're going to make direction equal to direction times -1, and that'll flip our direction. So now they're going in the opposite direction. So for enemy in enemies, let's go if move down is equal to true, enemy dot y plus equals, because that will move them down from the top, and let's move them down about 80 pixels. After that whole for loop is done, I'm going to do another if move down is equal to true, and now let's set move down back to false. Okay, and there we go. So after that happens, then he's going to move down and flip. So I also want this also to happen if the whole line is all the way to the left. So let's do an or enemies 0, which is the first one in the line, the one in the furthest left, and if that is less than, let's say 80, then we're going to have it do the same thing. Let's see if that works. Oh, we've got an error. Local variable direction referenced before assignment. Yeah, I haven't created direction yet, have I? I have not. I know what we need to do, because we could either make it another global variable, we could do that, or we could assign it to each individual enemy, which direction they're going. We can do that. So let's try that. -1 dot direction is equal to 1, so it increases that. And then when we refer to direction, let's just make it actually, I'm changing my mind. Let's not do that. Let's make it global. So let's go direction equals 1, and let's also do a global direction. Still have a oh yeah, move down is false. So right here, let's check if move down is equal to, let's make move down equal to false. In which case we actually don't need that down there, because if it's getting set to false every time. There we go. Boom. That works actually pretty well. I think we could probably have them go a little bit closer, especially on the left. And maybe they're jumping down a little bit too much. Like maybe let's go down to 50. And on the left hand side, let's also change that to 50. Let's see if that's any better. Boom. Boom. And now, as I shoot, notice that my score is going up by 150 every time, which is fantastic. Okay. I'm getting an error here because I'm referring to something in enemies. I'm assuming there has to be something in there. So let's we can just add on it to this condition right here. If the length of enemies is greater than 0, and I'll just throw that in there. That way, if this is false, it's not going to run that. So now if I try again and I destroy all of them, boom. And that is game over, essentially. If we want to add a whole bunch more, then we can do that. We could also put in here not only X, but also increase, do an additional one for Y in range. Well, let's say 4, so I could have 4 rows of enemies as well. So we add additional ones, and their Y could be 80 plus, let's go 80 times Y. Let's see what happens there. Hey, look at that. Pretty easy, pretty nice. And so now we can have it where they're getting attacked, they're getting shot at. And the last thing we need to do is also add in collision with my ship. So we could do that in here even. We could just check, because there's only one of us our ship, that's pretty good. If enemy dot collide rect with, and what's the variable we used for our ship? It is ship. If that's true, then we can make dead equal to true, and let's just do ship. Now what we need to do is we need to make it, like right now we don't want an error if we die. So what we're going to have to do is every reference to ship inside of our loops is we're going to have to just make sure dead is equal to false. Maybe we'll make dead actually part of our ship. So he's only drawn if he's alive. Does that make sense? So that means right up here, let's make ship dot dead equals false. And we can also make sure that he's not actually shooting if he's dead. We don't want that. So if dead is equal to false, then that happens. And we can do the same thing with the movement. Oops. So there we go. With this, what we can also do let's make a countdown where after you're dead, then we basically reduce your countdown so that way you can respawn after 2 or 3 seconds, let's say. All right, so 2 or 3 seconds, it's about 30 frames per second. So let's try 90, and if ship.dead, meaning if it's true, then ship.countdown minus equals 1. If ship.countdown is equal to 0, ship.dead is equal to false, and we can set its countdown back to 90. So what am I doing there? I'm basically making it so as soon as he's dead, it starts doing a countdown, and it's going to run this continually every frame. But then, as soon as it gets down to 0, we make it so the ship isn't dead anymore, and we reset its countdown back to 90. So let's see if that works. We're going to have to wait for these guys to come all the way down. And boom, 2, 3, oh. And notice that he keeps flashing in and out, and he is respawning. However, he keeps on getting collided with as well. But yeah, there we go. That's we've got some collision going on. You could obviously add in, I would probably add in a variable for lives so that he only has so many lives. And I'm thinking we're probably going to want to change up the behavior of the enemies, but I think you know how to do that now. So we're getting closer and closer to a full-on game. Last thing that I'm going to show you is how to use a custom font. Now, if you download, there's tons of free fonts you can download, even like legitimately. And so I downloaded one. It's called Arcade. PyGame Zero treats them similar to images. It looks for a fonts directory called fonts, all lowercase, and inside there it's expecting the name of your fonts to be all lowercase. So if you download it and it's all in uppercase, you're gonna have to change that to lowercase. .ttf, it's looking for the true type font extension. And so I've got one called Arcade here. And so in the where we are drawing the text, we can actually add in an additional parameter called font, and then in quotation marks we can go Arcade and font size and set how big we want that to be. So maybe I want it to be like 20. Now I believe that's the right syntax, but I could be wrong. Let's see. No, I am wrong. Unexpected keyword, it might be font family. But again, I'm going to check the, no, that's still not right. Font name, that's what it is right there. Let's try that again. Font name. Oh, and now string doesn't define round method. Let's check that again. Oh, font size should be an integer, not a string. Let's try that again. Here we go. There we go. So now we've got 0, 150, and that gives us a bit better of a feel of like an arcade game. There we go. And what we'll probably end up wanting to do is have the enemies shoot. They could shoot some bullets, then you can add in the collision for that, etc. And just make it a bit more of a fun game. All right, so that's it for this tutorial video. Hope you do well, and happy coding. Bye-bye.